Welcome to my Facebook page and today's live. I think it's Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday about 10:15. I hope you're doing well whenever you see this. I have kind of a big share today, and I'm not sure how this is going to go. I'm not sure if I'm going to have emotion tied to it, so I'll just apologize in advance if I tear up or kind of lose my speech for a moment at any point because of what I want to share with you all. I had an experience a couple of weeks ago, and Spirit kind of guided me in the middle of the night last night that it was time for me to share about it, that everybody needed to hear about it. And because it's very, very connected to the energies that we are moving through as a collective right now that are quite volatile and quite intense. And we happen to have a full moon today, which is kind of amplifying everything. So it felt like the perfect day for me to be brave and share some stuff with you all. So I put in the description a little bit about what I'm going to talk about, which is this experience that I had 2 weeks ago of having sacred union with Spirit. And but I need to give you a little backstory before we get into that. And so I don't know how long this is going to go. So if you need to come back and watch this later, we might go for like 20 minutes at least or so today. But before we do that, and before I get into my story, let's just take a moment and breathe. I know that the energies are very challenging right now. They are bringing up a lot of really deep wounds, and a lot of things that are very buried or have been very buried for many of us are coming to the surface. And so I just want you to take a moment and close your eyes and take a deep breath and feel into your body and acknowledge whatever is present in your experience right now. Acknowledge whatever is on your heart, acknowledge whatever is happening in your physical body, and see if in that acknowledgement you can release any judgment, release any attachment to it being different, and just be really present in the experience that you're having right now, and see if you can bring love into your body in some way. And when I do this with clients, I often ask them to think of something that brings them joy. Think of a place on this planet that they love. Think of a person that they love, and connect with that feeling tone and allow that to gently open your heart and help you to drop into your own experience as you listen to what I have to share with you all today. Because the energy of what I have experienced is carrying through my voice and will be delivered to each of you in this Facebook Live video. And I will be going much more deeply into the topics that I'm going to share later this month in my healing circle on the 14th. And so I'll tell you all more about that at the end. So the backstory of what I want to share with you is that several months ago, I started to have some connection with some new guides from the star system Sirius, and those are aspects of self or other lifetimes that I am accessing that I have participated in. So not a typical guide as somebody that I'm connecting with, but more an aspect of self that I'm reconnecting with. And the primary teaching that came forward at that time, and this was probably the end of spring, early summer time frame. I can't quite remember. Time is very nonlinear these days. Was all about the balance of the masculine and feminine energy in our own bodies and clearing distortions around those two energies. And in Sirius, in that star system, they have done a lot of work on balance. And they gave me a whole process that I take people through in session and in workshops and retreats about balancing those energies within the body. And so I've been working with that for several months. And I had 3 retreats in the summertime, and that same theme came up in new ways at every retreat that I had. The first one, it was very much about just blasting the heart wide open and coming into a state of love and bliss. And the second retreat, which was an adventure retreat in Mount Shasta, was all about clearing out our distortions around relationship and where we have given our power away in relationship and where we have taken power from others in relationship. And the third retreat was a women's retreat, and it was all about the culmination of the divine feminine energies that are anchoring onto this planet. And so over this 2-month period, I have shifted just as much as every person that came, if not more, to the retreats. And so this teaching that anchored several months ago of this idea of balancing the masculine and feminine has been percolating in my field and evolving in my field. And then 2 weeks ago on a Monday, I had an experience at 2:30 in the morning where I was awakened from a dream, which has been happening quite a lot lately, a very emotional dream. And there was a clearing that my guides started to go into in my field. And they were clearing I don't know if it's the final, but it was a very big layer of distortion of masculine and feminine energy in my field that was keeping me from being in partnership with my husband and keeping me from being in partnership with other people that I might call in to be a part of my community, of this very intentional community that I want to build that's much bigger than what I am creating right now. And it was a very intense process. There was a lot of energy cleared. There was very physical. And as the energy cleared, what began to happen is I began to experience the energy of the divine feminine and the divine masculine from the sacred Mother Earth of the divine feminine and the sacred masculine from Source coming into my body. And even though I had been practicing with it for months of balancing those two energies, for the very first time in this lifetime, I felt them come into perfect harmony. And I felt myself come into sacred union. I felt the two aspects of me come into full sacred union, and my heart exploded open. And I had what I would call an orgasmic, and I don't use that term lightly, blissful experience that went on for several hours. And of course, my husband slept through the whole thing, and so did my dog. And, through the middle of that experience, one of the things that happened is that the energies were so intense that they triggered a fear response in my body. And one of the things that my guides were sharing with me when that fear response came forward was that there was some clearing that needed to happen in order for me to anchor this frequency and keep my heart open to that level of, to that frequency permanently. And that I needed to be prepared. And so typically what happens when I have these big experiences, they happen every month or every few months or sometimes more often. There's a very, very big expansion, and then there's a very, very strong contraction. And I know that cycle very well. And so even though I'm excited about the expansion, I also know what comes next. Because when we have a big expansion, anything that's not in alignment with that new frequency that has landed in our body has to be purged, has to be released, has to be healed, has to be transmuted, has to be brought into a frequency of love and in harmony with whatever landed. And so for the last couple of weeks, I've been going through that process. And I have done some Facebook Lives about feeling stuck, feeling like I'm in the void. A lot of us are in the void right now. And I've also shared some other details about some of the grief on my personal page that has been coming up. And one of the reasons why I'm sharing this with you all now is because what happened to me last night about 5:30 this morning actually was that I was in the middle of a dream, and in the dream I had been completely abandoned by everybody and was left alone. And I was sobbing in the dream, and I woke up sobbing last night after this dream. And all of this energy of fear of abandonment started clearing out of my body. And I cried for about an hour, and luckily the dog came and laid on my head, and my husband reached over and grabbed my hand, so I had somebody to hold space for me. But I let go. Of lifetimes of feeling like people were abandoning me and I didn't belong here. And I'm sharing this story with you not because I want you to feel sorry for me or to love on me or any of that stuff, but so that you know that even though I do this work every single day, this kind of stuff is still coming up for me. And over the last 2 weeks in session with clients, I see quite a few clients a week now, I have witnessed people sobbing and crying and telling me that they don't know what it's coming from. They don't know where all this grief is coming from. They don't know why they feel so alone. They don't know why they're afraid to commit to their partner. All of this abandonment energy is coming up right now to be healed. And the reason why it's coming up in the energy field right now, if you all follow me pretty regularly, you know that I also talk about astrology some, even though I'm not an astrologer. But the Mars retrograde period that we're in right now is very much this go, 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 connect outward energy that, because it's in retrograde, is also go, 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 and connect inward. And so we're feeling right now this dichotomy of wanting to reconnect with the people in our life and our family and our friends and connect, but in a new way, in a deeper way that we've never connected before. But we also are feeling the very strong and almost urgent pull that we need to get our stuff together, that we need to get anchored in our truth in this lifetime, and we need to get anchored in the reality of what we came here to do, because it's kind of getting urgent. Many of us are feeling this pull of like, I don't want to be unhappy anymore. I don't want to be in a life that doesn't feel in alignment, but I don't know what to do to clear it. I don't know what to do to move through it. And right now, we're in this very void-like energy where things are somewhat confusing, because when we're in confusion and when we're in the void, everything that we have been blind to, everything that has been really deeply buried, starts to come to the surface to be evaluated. And so here we are in this place of wanting to connect outward and wanting to be in community and wanting to really love one another. But we also at the same time are feeling like, oh, I need to be in my own space. I need to feel really independent in myself. I need to feel really whole in myself. And both of those energies are happening at the same time. And I'll be posting in a couple of days my energy update for October. And I've been talking quite a lot about what's coming in October and November and how important it is and how it might be challenging and how it might also be revolutionary for each of us. And what is very typical for me is that I kind of go through stuff ahead of most of the people that I support. And so you may not be feeling any of this yet. You may not feel this for another couple of weeks. But I wanted to come on here and say to you that if you feel this, if you feel it now, if you feel it in the future, this deep sense of loneliness, this deep sense of fear, this deep sense of grief, lean into it and cry it out and wail it out and dance it out and scream it out, or whatever you need to do, because the only way to the other side is through. The only way that we're going to get to this fifth dimensional frequency as a collective, and we're going to come back to unity, is for each of us to move through this very difficult layer that I am currently navigating. Because each of us has what I call the original wound, which is this notion that when we decided to separate from Source and come here and come onto this planet, that there was this loss. There was this deep sense of grief and loss that we are having to navigate now, where we separated from who we were. We separated from Source so that we could know ourselves, so that we could individuate and we could have this human experience, which is so exciting and so wonderful, but so fucking hard all at the same time. And so here we are having this human collective experience, but we're all carrying this deep wound that shows up different for each of us. It might show up as you push people away and you are hyper independent. There's this really great meme going around right now that says, I can't remember exactly what it says, but like hyper independence is a trauma response. And that's so true. We push people away because we're afraid we're going to lose them. And so it's easier to just push them away than it is to invest in them further and have to go through the pain of loss over and over and over again. And I've realized for me personally, that's where a lot of this, the anger that I had to purge at the beginning of this month was coming from, of like not letting people in, because I had been abandoned so many times in this lifetime and in other lifetimes. And it's not that really anybody's really abandoning me. It's that the time that I had with that person has come to a close, and that's just what happens. But your inner child often takes that very much as a sense of abandonment, especially if you had a childhood where you were abandoned or you weren't looked after or you weren't nurtured, which is 99% of all of us, because no parent is perfect. And then you layer on top of all of that stuff in this human lifetime with this original wound that I'm talking about, where we separated from source and became separate and became somewhat afraid that we wouldn't get back to source. And you can see how complicated this gets and why it's so deep and why it's so raw, especially right now as we're in this Mars retrograde period that's bringing all of these external validation desires and these internal validation desires to the surface. And yesterday, I knew I needed to go out into nature, and I went on a hike, and I had this beautiful plan of going to Roan Mountain, which is kind of on the border of North Carolina and Tennessee. And it was supposed to be sunny, and I was hiking up to this big bald that I could look out across all of the mountains, because when I need perspective, I want to actually go somewhere where I can have perspective. And my friend Kathy and I got there, and it was so foggy, and we were in a cloud. I couldn't see anything. And I just had to laugh, because I just wrote a newsletter a few days ago about the fact that we're in this void, and I kept seeing in my head that we're just like in a cloud and we don't know where we're going. And I said to Spirit, I see what you're doing here. This is really, really funny. I've come up here to get perspective, and you're putting me in a cloud where I can't see anything. And I said to Kathy, wouldn't it be funny if in a few minutes, or halfway through our hike, the sun comes out and we have this beautiful perspective? And what happened? But we get up to the first bald, and as we're walking to the next one, the sun comes out and the clouds part, and I can see for miles. I can see for miles what is around me, and I can see how beautiful it is. And it's not that it wasn't beautiful before when I was in the cloud, but as the clouds parted, I could see everything. And it was even more beautiful to have that perspective, but I kind of almost missed being in the cloud a little bit. And so I knew that when I came home yesterday from my hike, that it was time, that I was about to have the perspective of what I've been working through for the last 2 weeks. And of course, that's when I had the experience last night of this fear of abandonment energy coming up. And so there's a few themes that I'll be sharing about. They're still kind of landing. I'm going to let them land before I start to share them with you for October. And there's some very important things that we're going to be navigating this month. And I'm going to tackle as best as I can, or work with as best as I can, these dueling energies through the work that I'm going to bring to you all. So in the Healing Circle on October 14th, we're going to be reclaiming connection. Connection to self, connection to source, connection to those around us. And in the process of that, we're going to be letting go of perfection and judgment and fear of abandonment and lack and scarcity and all of the things that keep us from connecting with ourselves and with those around us. And I'm going to be hosting in 2 different places, the same workshop called Creating Space, where in a live channeling and a sound healing, we're going to be letting go of a whole bunch of stuff and making space for this connection to come in. So I'll have different options for you all to connect with these energies, and I'll be sharing more about this in a couple of days when the energy update comes out. But it felt really important on this full moon for me to come on and tell my story to you all. And, I just want you all to know that if this resonates with you and you're moving through this, that the heart opening that I went through this morning, even though my heart feels really raw today, my heart is just bursting open with love. And that's what always happens. This contraction comes in, and there's all this dense energy that needs to be cleared. And when I allow the emotional release, and then especially when I speak about it and I share it with other people, so thank you all for listening. When I share it with other people, there's an ability for me to have a perspective and for me to move forward, and then me to do my work in the world and support other people in this frequency. And that is my mission here. It's my most important mission here. And I think we each have the same mission. It just shows up differently. We're each here to do our own internal work and then hold those frequencies and hold our truth and hold the knowings and allow our frequencies and our fields to interact with everybody around us, and then to be forever changed by just coming into contact with our field, even if we don't speak a word to them. And so each of you are doing that. You're doing it in your work. You're doing it in your 3D work. It doesn't matter what you're doing on this planet. If you're doing your inner work and you're looking at this stuff and you're feeling your feelings and you're healing your ego and you're doing all these things, because, geez, it's freaking hard, right? You are doing enough. And so don't let anybody ever tell you that you're not fulfilling your purpose if all you're doing is working on your awakening. That's enough. Because if everybody did that, this world would move into unity faster than you could ever imagine. And I know that's where we're headed. And I know we have to be patient. But I do thank you and love all of you for the work that you're doing. Because every time I have a shift like this, my guides showed me the field of energy that gets impacted, the ripple effect that happens when energy downloads through me. And they show it to me like this energetic light grid, this overlapping grid system, where I'm a nodal point and the energy comes through me, and then it sends itself out into the energetic matrix that I have created through the connections that I have made with those that I have done sessions with those that have come through in workshops with me, with those that watch my page and have never even spoken to me. And then it goes beyond that to the people that those people have connected to. And so it doesn't matter how many people see this Facebook Live or how many people hear this story, because it's enough. Because that impact, whatever size it is, small or large, is important. And so I'm no different than you all. Every single time you do this work, every single time you bring light into your body, every single time you move through something, you are impacting the field and you are helping. So thank you. Thank you for showing up and keeping me from having to do this all by myself. Clearly, this idea that I'm abandoned and there's nobody here is just a ego construct that is clearing out for me from other lifetimes, because I have a huge community that I impact every single day, and so do all of you, even if it doesn't feel like that sometimes and you feel like you're doing this on your own. So thank you all for letting me tell my story, for letting me share this really important work with you, this really important download. All of this is happening through me because I am working on something very special that is going to hopefully take this heaven on earth connection and sacred union with source frequency and put it into something that is manageable for you all to do in practice. And that is building within me and will hopefully be launched in I'm not sure. I think it'll maybe the beginning of December, but we'll see. But I'll keep sharing with you all along the way, and I wish you all love and support, and I hope you have a wonderful full moon day today, and look out in the next couple of days for my energy update so you know what to expect in the month of October. And when my healing circle is live, I'll post that in the comments. And please feel free to comment and let me know if this resonated, share your story. We are all here to support each other. So have a blessed day, a wonderful day. Love you all. Thank you for being here.